You're listening to the WBT Podcast with Michael Lodge. Listen to all of our podcasts at www.wbtpod.com. Stay informed. Let's get started.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I'm glad that you have joined me. I tell you, over the last couple of days, we have had some really strange weather. We've had temperatures down in the 40s at night and 60s during the daytime. And then all of a sudden it shoots right up to 83 degrees where you're sweltering. And then now we had this big rainstorm come in, so now we've got huge amounts of rain. So that's what happens in Palm Beach. When you live down at this part of the world, this part of the nation, you get some very strange weather. But listen, our conversation today on this podcast is going to be about politics and business. I'll be right back.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
Well, I tell you, over the last few weeks, we have just been pounded with politics, right? Every single time we turn around, there's politics. Every party or dinner party we go to, it's politics. On TV, it's all politics. On my podcast, it has been all politics. So I have fallen into it also. Usually I use this podcast to use it as a teaching tool. But over the last few weeks, I found that so much was going on and so much was so important to talk about politically, because it really was an attack upon the Constitution. And I am a constitutionalist, and I believe in the Constitution. I believe that it is the foundation of this nation, and if we don't protect it, we will have problems in this life. And so what I saw was that the Democrats were really, really pounding on the Constitution. So I had to use my podcast and talk about politics. Before I get started in my lecture series this morning, I wanted to endorse someone. And as you know, Nancy Pelosi has really become a tyrant. She's become an individual that says that she's praying for the president, but is working on his downfall, trying to destroy an individual, trying to even destroy his family. And so it's time now that you as Californians and as America as a whole, it's time to tell this lady that it's time to go. And the only way to do that is by putting somebody in there that can do a great job. And so I'm going to endorse and support John Dennis for that congressional seat of Nancy Pelosi. Listen, he's a Republican and he's running against Nancy Pelosi. He's a proud father. He's a very good husband. Chairman of the San Francisco Republican Party, vice chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. He's a businessman. He's a dog person. And he's running for Congress. And I want you all, if you are in the San Francisco area, I want you to go to his website, which is John Dennis, JohnDennis.com. JohnDennis.com. There is a tab up there that's asking for volunteers. I want you to get involved. I want you to contact his office. I want you to go down. I want you to pass out those pamphlets. I want you to talk to people. I want you to do whatever that you can to help this guy out, because he is running against Satan. And it's time. She's been there way, way too long. And she's the problem of Washington, D.C. where nothing can get done because there's so much evil, corrupt politics going on, and everybody's fighting against everybody. So, listen, it's time to clean out house. Not just in her congressional district, but any congressional district where there is an individual with a D by their name, they need to go. If you live in a district where you have a congressperson or a senator with a D by their name, vote them out of office. Because we're tired. Americans are politically fatigued with all this political nonsense and fighting and calling of names and calling people racist and all this other stuff. It's time to change. It's time to clean house. So I want you to get involved. I want you to contact John Dennis at his website at johndennis.com. Get involved. Get to know this guy. Get out there and start working, because you need to change the member of Congress with the name Nancy Pelosi. That name needs to go, and you need to replace it with John Dennis. So that's my endorsement for this morning. Let's go for him. Let's work for him. Let's get it done. Let's take back that seat. Nancy Pelosi has got to go. It's time. So let's talk about business and taxes. In fact, the title of my podcast, the WBT, stands for Wealth, Business, and Taxes. And I want to start by first looking at the state side. California in September. And I'm talking about California at the moment because I'm dealing with this very issue with my tax clients that are located in California, who are affected by a bill called AB 5, Assembly Bill 5. And it was written by Lorraine Gonzalez, which is a very, very liberal, pro-government, pro-taxation, socialist type individual. So she created this law to go after Uber, Lyft, those type of gig companies where people are working on the side part-time. And the biggest problem that they had is that Californians, once this law was passed, and those people who were working on the gigs, who were working out of their homes, who were English translators or Spanish translators or court reporters or even physical therapists and PTs, OTs, were affected by this law, because what it forced them to do and forced companies to do is say, okay, we can no longer hire independent contractors. You now have to be a W-2 employee. So what did that do? Well, that put a whole bunch of people out of work, especially in the entertainment industry. Copyright people and people who worked on sets for, you know, when you're doing a movie or a TV show, especially a movie, it's a short period of time. It's not years and years and years, but these people are working as independent contractors. They're working as a GIF or a writer, or they could be writing dialogue. They could be doing hair. They could be doing fashion design for the set. They could be doing a whole bunch of different things to get to the point. Well, now they have to be W-2. Now, when you're working on these kind of jobs, what happens? You have to do a lot of traveling. So you have to travel from set to set. You may have 3 sets set up, and you may have to travel from studio to studio. You may have to go from place to place trying to get stuff for the production company. As a writer, you may have to go into meetings. You may have to buy pizza for the writing staff as you write. There's a whole bunch of different things that you have to do as an independent contractor for a short period of time. You might be on the project 1 day, or maybe 1 week, or 3 weeks, or 6 weeks, or 6 months. It depends on the project. So as a W-2 employee, under the new federal tax laws, you don't get to write any of that off unless you're a 1099. So all those expenses that you incur with your independent contract, you get to write off on a Schedule C, which is for business or profession, for independent contractors, for small business people. Independent contractors are small business people. So they pushed this law through, so now anybody who was an independent contractor can no longer be an independent contractor. They have to be a W-2, so they don't get any of those deductions anymore. They're no longer running their small business that they used to be on. I have clients that come into my in the entertainment industry that have about 10 or 15 1099s because they're hopping from project to project. And they're filing the Schedule C because that's what I'm filing for them. And we make sure that all of their 1099s add up. And we report them correctly. And we make sure that all of their expenses are in line with the federal tax code. Under an independent contractor, however, as a W-2, they don't get any of that anymore. Independent contractors are small businesses, and then they should be considered and treated as small businesses. They're reporting everything correctly. They're in compliance with federal and state law. But the state of California said, we want you to become a W-2 because now we get your state income taxes. We get your state employment taxes. We get your unemployment taxes. We get all this money from you. We now know better than you. You are no longer a small business. You are an employee. That's basically what they've done. They've forced people out of their small business now to become employees because the state of California says that's what we want you to be because we need your taxes. So AB5 did a lot of damage, and I'm fighting it right now. Every single day I am talking to assembly members that are trying to get this thing either repealed or fixed. And it's a tough road because the state of California is predominantly dominated by Democrats in the state assembly and in the state senate and in the governor's office. The liberal Democrats have taken over the state. And so now what they're doing is hurting small businesses. There are individual companies outside of the state of California that used to hire independent contractors in California, and they've sent them letters saying, listen, we can no longer use you. You're in an AB5 state, we can no longer use you. Your contract's terminated. Bye-bye. So that's what has happened when you don't monitor what is going on in your state legislature. Legislatures affect business issues. And we see it right now, what's going on. We now have a situation where the legislature and the Attorney General are trying to overrun Prop 13, which protected property taxes on homes so that they would not rise to great levels. The state of California wants your money so badly that they want to get away. They want to override Prop 13. And if you're not concerned about this, you should, because that means that the taxes, the property taxes on your houses are going to go skyrocketing. They're going to go crazy. They're going to go nuts. If you do not get involved in the politics of your state and how it affects your lives taxation-wise and business-wise, you're going to have a state that's going to overrun you every single time because you're not getting involved. So that's why I'm talking to you today, is that you have to pay attention to this. on the federal level is just as bad. Several years ago, and this is what comes to my mind at the moment, the Democrats decided that they wanted to know where every bit of your money is. If you have a foreign bank account, $10,000 or more at any given time during the year, you had to report that. They wrote this bill so that you had to report that to the Treasury Department in a special report, and you had to report it on your 1040 tax return. Now, let me tell you how this was snuck in. This bill was snuck in on the transportation bill. Like every bill in Congress, they sneak in these little things, and you don't know about it. Because me or you sitting there thinking, tax-wise, let me see what's happening tax-wise in all of the tax legislation. But you would never think to look at a transportation bill to see how that's going to affect you. And what wording is in there, that there's a sneaky little tax bill in there. Not only did this make this that you had to report it, but if you didn't report it, and by the way, that $10,000, that means if you held a foreign bank account with $10,000 or more at any given time during the year, you had to report it. But let's say your mom is in Italy, and your mom has put you as a signer on that account. Well, guess what? You're still responsible for that, and you still have to report that to the federal government. Two ways, to the Treasury Department and to the IRS. Now, if you don't, it becomes a criminal matter. Once again, a sneaky little bill that was snuck in on the back of a transportation bill. Deep in the words of that legislation, there was a tax bill. These kinds of things is what I'm talking about, is that if you are not monitoring what's going on in Congress or in your state or in your city or in your county, you've got to monitor it. You've got to pay attention, because what they do affects you. Can you imagine thousands and thousands of people losing jobs in California because they can no longer be an independent contractor? Instead, they have to be a W-2. But some of them can't because they're working out of their homes. The disabled, the people who can't leave their homes, the people who are trying to take care of their children and support their children, but they only want to work whenever they want to work. That's what an independent contractor does. He's independent, she's independent. But the state says, no, you have to be an employee. And you get all the benefits of the world. People like to be independent. That's what this nation was built on, was independence. They like to be independent. They like to be able to control their business as they see it, not what the state or the federal government sees it. And that's when everything gets so muddied and dirty and corrupt, because politics corrupts the system so badly that it puts people in situations that they don't want to be. Independent contractors want to remain independent contractors. They want to go and be whatever they want to be. There are individuals who have become licensed. They have become professionally licensed physical therapists or occupational therapists or nurses who work independently. They work whenever they want to. But now they have to be a W-2 employee, and they lose all of the federal tax deductions that you're allowed to take as a independent contractor. So I want you to be aware. I know it sounds like a full-time job because so much goes through Congress. That's why the Democrats say, gosh, we've passed so many things, but the majority of those things are worthless because they affect you and me. Those politicians think that what they're doing is for the good of the party or for the good of the unions or for the good of whatever entity that they are fighting for. Instead of fighting for the American people, they're fighting for their party and all these other groups out there. And they've forgotten all about you and me. So we have to elect people who are going to fight for us and not for the unions or for the political party or for their power. As soon as they get to Washington, D.C., they start fighting to see what committee that they can be on. Not fighting for the American people, but they're fighting for how much power that they can gain, because once you are on these powerful committees, they feel as if they are somebody. But in actuality, they're nobody, because now they have just went over to the side of their party, not for the American people. So what happens in Congress, what happens in all of these other government entities from the state level down to the city level, affects you and me. It affects us big time. And if we're not paying attention to what's going on, we're going to have more of these bills passed through Congress that are going to affect us. States are going to take over and we will have no say in it because you're not paying attention. When they passed that huge gas tax bill in the state of California, which was supposed to go to fix roads, it all got to be siphoning off from all these different committees. You know, we can take some and put it over here and take some of the money and put it over there. And that's what, on the very first day that it went into law, the assembly people and the members of Senate were already doing that. They were siphoning away from this gas tax. And now they want more taxes, so they're trying to get rid of Property 13 so they can use it for schools, which I thought this lottery system that was put into place in the state of California and almost every other state was to go to school funding. How much of it actually goes to school funding? So the schools have become overridden by top-tier managers and administrators that cost billions of dollars a year to pay these people. Do you see what I'm trying to tell you? The learning experience of today's podcast should be get involved with what's going on in government and make sure that you're monitoring what is happening. Who is involved? What is being said? What bills are being pushed forward? It's very important that that is done. It's important that you and I get involved in this. What happens in Congress, what happens at the state and local levels, affect us big time. I remember when I lived in the state of California, the city and local governments were in Los Angeles were very dominant. They're very aggressive, especially in the use of water. I remember because I had beautiful gardens in the back of my home, date palm trees and all kinds of plums and apples and oranges. I had a beautiful backyard. It looked like a garden when you went out there. It was so peaceful. So it took water to grow all that stuff. All my other neighbors had cement backyards. Everything was cemented in. They had nothing of green in their backyards. So thus, they used less water. So every month I would get this letter from the city water department. You need to attend a water conservation class. And I said, no, I'm not going to. I am using the right amount of water. I have it all planned out to make sure that all of these plants and everything grow beautifully. And I've got a green environment in the back of my house. But because all of my other neighbors had all cemented in backyards, they used no water in the backyard. But me, having a beautiful garden in the backyard that created such beauty and such peacefulness, and also helped the environment with all my trees, they didn't care. They were forcing me to go to a water conservation class. I never went. Because I don't feel that the city took enough time before they sent that letter out to see exactly what everybody else was doing in that neighborhood. So what happened is that the water district takes in so much money, and it's an independently run board, but it takes in so much money that too also gets robbed by the city of Los Angeles to pay for all of their stupid projects. So when you look at the sources and uses of funds that flow into these government agencies, you're going to see that there's a tremendous, tremendous amount of waste. There are people who are doing jobs that other people are doing. It's repetitive. So they sit at their desks and basically do nothing. I'm sorry, I've got to get a cup of coffee. Just 1 second. So, the point of this podcast, as you and I sit here drinking coffee, or your Diet Coke, or whatever you're having, we have to understand that we just cannot be limp. We just can't look the other way. But you have to get involved before the government takes 100% over what you used to be able to do. I believe in laws, and I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in the Constitution. But I don't believe that a government should ever be so strong that they control every part of your life. Government should never be involved in our healthcare system. Never. Because they have failed so many times at it. They should never be involved in so many different aspects of our life. They should never be involved in telling us what kind of an employee or independent contractor we should be. They should not be able to tell us, no, you can no longer have a business, you have to be an employee. Even though you've been acting that way and operating that way for years, now they say, no, we need more taxes, so we're going to take over your life. Those of you in California, you had better be spouting out about AB5. You should be on the phone to Lorraine Gonzalez, Assemblyman out of San Diego, and yelling at her. You should be finding the alternative bills that are trying to repeal this or change it from all the other Assembly people that are trying to help Californians. If you're not standing up for your people in California, for your neighbor, for your mom and dad, for your sister, for your brother, for your cousin, whoever it may be, if you're not standing up and trying to help them, then you're failing in your citizenship requirements. Because we all need to support each other. We have to wipe out bad laws and bad people who create these bad laws. This is ridiculous how far we've gotten, where politicians are now controlling every aspect of our lives. So, listen, don't hate politically. I don't want you to do that, because once hate gets into it, you can't accomplish anything. I want you to use common sense. I want you to get involved. I want you to contact these assembly people and these Congress people and these senators and whoever you have to contact regarding your concern. But don't get politically angry because you can't solve anything, because then your words become nothing. And it hurts any action that you're trying to do. Political hate gets you nowhere. But if you are common sense oriented and you are focused on what is right and destroying what is wrong, and if you say it in ways that is professional and sounds like it's right and it is right, you will get things done. But once you start calling people names, you will never ever get things done. You'll just sit there and spin and spin and spin. And whatever you hear that you agree with, you'll spin that. And then whatever you don't feel is right, you'll start creating stories to make you feel good. So put the political hate to the side. Look at what's coming up in Congress. Look at what's coming up in your local governments. And see what is going to hurt you. And then fight for it. Fight against it. But don't sit there idly by, hoping somebody else will do it. So, to end this, I just want to remind you, I want you to support John Dennis for Congress, who's running against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco. Go to his website. I'll say it again. It's John Dennis, JohnDennis.com. Sign up, volunteer, do whatever you can to help this guy because he needs it. If you have any comments or ideas or thoughts, send me a text at 818-252-5682, 818-252-5682. I answer everything. This is Mike Lodge. I'll talk with you soon. Everyone go out and have a great day. I mean a really great day. Talk with you soon.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast is produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.